Ready, Freddy? Is it rolling?
What does that look like?
They see me rolling. They hating.
Who's they?
I don't know, but they see me. I feel like we
Multiple
should be
of
like
them.
this whole setup feels like newscasting. Like, good morning. In today's top news, I got nothing. We're gonna talk about the top things that we enjoyed doing while we were in Nashville. Obviously, we're not in Kansas anymore, or Nashville. We haven't
That's
even
not
been
obvious.
to Kansas yet.
This
but
could be in Nashville. You have no clue. So it's not obvious.
we'll just let you guys figure that one out. But we're gonna talk about the things that we love doing, things that we did and we really enjoyed, and maybe didn't enjoy so much in Nashville while we were there.
Yep, that's what we're gonna talk about.
It seems like the very first location on every single stop we go to, like literally within like the first day or so, has been the zoo. And I feel like our trip has really been about us trying to see how many zoos we could possibly fit into however long we're gonna be doing this for.
Yep.
But that was the first stop.
Because the zoo is our first stop everywhere we go, what we have a tendency to do is then compare it to all the other zoos we just went to. So, what was it? St. Louis was our first one on this trip to go to. I mean, it's a pretty good zoo.
Yeah, St. Louis was good. I liked that it was also free and open to the public.
Cheap.
No, I just thought
The
that
zoo
was a really cool
really
thing
good
for the
free.
community.
Yeah, it was amazing. And it was an awesome zoo.
Yeah, it was awesome. I just think also we went during like colder months, so a lot of the animals were out. But like in Nashville, the animals was like, "What's up, bitches? Spring is lit up in here." So there was a lot more activity at the zoo.
The other thing that I think we noticed almost immediately was the Nashville, Tennessee Zoo seemed very natural when you went into it. It didn't seem like an amusement park. There weren't bright colors everywhere.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was a zoo created for the animals in mind. Like when it's going to be beneficial to them.
Yeah.
More so than a lot of the other zoos we went to where it just seemed like it's kind of sad.
Yeah, it kind of, I don't know, when you go to a zoo, I don't know about you guys, but we're really big animal lovers, and I don't know, you just kind of, in a way, feel sorry for the animals because they're not in their natural habitat. And you know, a lot of the zoos are involved with like conservation efforts and doing the best they can for animals and the wildlife as well as in the habitat. They try to recreate that, but you see them in these small enclosures and it's kind of like, oh man, or like enclosures that don't seem very well taken care of. Stop it.
Rule number one.
I know. And this being said, so one of my favorite exhibits at this zoo was when we got to, well, was it this one? We got to pet the kangaroos?
Yes.
Okay, I can't, y'all been to so many.
It was her favorite so much that it was almost forgettable.
No, but this is the problem with us doing so many awesome things and going to so many zoos. It's just like, okay, which one was this again? But yeah, we got to go inside of this kangaroo exhibit and there was a long wait for it. Oliver blew our minds with his level of patience. I've never seen the kid
He
that
sat
patient.
still for the opportunity, the very small chance or opportunity that a kangaroo would hop towards him.
Yes.
He just sat there for
10
minutes, which seemed like decades.
Yes, but like, so the fact that the zoo was so well catered towards the animals in the natural habitat, and there was also an area where you can go in and interact with the animals, but it was a very peaceful, it wasn't like a chaotic experience like most petting zoos you experience with your children. Like you had to wait for the kangaroos. If they came within arm's reach, you couldn't go in the grass. They only let so many people in. And we did get to touch 2 kangaroos. Oliver was wildly patient. It was just, wow.
So we don't know if the zoo was great or if just our kid being on his best behavior was really amazing. So
maybe that was it.
But we love the zoo.
But we love the zoo. So moving on from the zoo. Second place that we stopped by in Nashville was the Science Center.
Another thing that we tend to go to every city we go to.
And now Oliver actually asked to go to science centers everywhere I go, which is kind of cool.
He's going to be somewhat confused about what science is when he grows up, maybe.
Probably. I have to say, I was not really impressed with the Science Center in Nashville. The Science Center in St. Louis was so fucking amazing that maybe it just kind of blew everything else and we like set the bar high. St. Louis, you set the bar high. So Nashville was kind of like, I don't know, I just wasn't
I liked it.
Disco's just a nerd who likes science, period. So you give him a planet and he'll be okay. Like, oh look, there's Uranus.
Right. Uranus.
Uranus. Us mature folks know it's called Uranus.
You give them a planet, they'll be happy. Yeah.
I don't know.
I love being on this planet.
I wasn't thrilled with the Science Center. It was like
What were you thrilled about?
the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
Let me tell y'all something.
Tell them something.
We are not and have never considered ourselves, and don't come for us, country music fans or enthusiasts. Some pop country, we love some T Swift every now and then. Growing up, listen to like a few songs that are hit, but like not something that we seek out and listen to, go to concerts for, stuff like that.
Which confused people when they find out I'm from Alabama.
Yeah.
But
we were shook by Grand Ole Opry.
it's
Like
phenomenal.
from the get, and we couldn't get a whole lot of video footage there, so we'll try to insert some photos of our experience, and we're just gonna, you guys just take our word for it.
Well, tell them about the sequence of events.
So we took a tour first because it was one of the #1 recommendations of everybody for the area. Also, we were in Music City, so we wanted to go see what it was all about. You don't just go to Nashville and not experience some of the culture of country music and the food.
Unless you do.
But
we did.
But that's what we wanted. We wanted to explore that part of
We
Nashville.
wanted to take in all of Nashville.
All of Nashville. So on the backstage tour, like from the get, when you go in, you have this theater that's kind of like a smaller version of like the actual theater. And there's this show, and it feels like you're in this show. And I don't know, it couldn't have been 5-10 minutes long.
Yeah, 8 minutes.
First of all, Oliver
It
sat.
was 8 minutes. So once again, another compliment to our kid on his best behavior made the event even better.
Sat there like the whole time, and we've been kind of on the fence, like would he sit still through like a movie in a theater? Not that they're open anywhere, but like is he at this stage? And that was like the first clue that we were like,
maybe he will.
Maybe, yeah, because we were like, when did Brack start doing that? Anyways, we were both emotional. Like the show that they did and the performers that they had about Opry had us both in like literally eyes watering, and we hadn't even done the tour.
Yeah, it was just the intro. It was just the
I'm
appetizer.
getting goosebumps just thinking about it
It's
because
good.
the culture, like you really started to truly like, I don't know, understand the culture around country music, and that it's like a family. And I don't know, the only thing I can relate this to in my life is First Form.
Yeah.
And how the culture around fitness and people from all over the world, and no matter who you are or what part of you are in the company, you know that that person got your back. And it felt the same way for country music.
Yeah.
So we took this tour, we learned a lot about Opryland.
It was like 10 a.m. in the morning, and we do this tour. It's relatively quick.
Yeah.
You know, not bad like to go through. We had Oliver, who's 3.5 years old, but he was able to kind of go through it. Ended up in the gift shop at the end. Immediately we were saying, you know what, if there are tickets available, we have to go to a show.
Yeah.
Because they were only at 25% capacity at the time. So we were wondering like, how are seats? How do you hold a concert in the middle of a pandemic? We were, you know, we're interested to see how it went.
Yeah.
But immediately bought tickets for the very next weekend, which was great because I think it was our last weekend there too, right?
So our goal throughout this trip has been to take one date night at each location if we can. It's been a little challenging some ways, but we've managed to make it happen. When we were unsure of like, what do we do for our date night? Like, where do we go? We want to experience the culture of Nashville. Like, let's do something typical to the areas. It's been our goal. And we left there and we're like, this is what we're gonna do on our date night. Yeah. We bought tickets, we bought great tickets. And the cool thing about the Grand Ole Opry is that
every ticket's a great ticket, honestly.
Yeah, you can't get a bad ticket. We experienced several performers, and so they do the show live every single Saturday. And if I can recall correctly, it's been like 94 or 95 years. They have not missed a single live show every single Saturday. And I was just so blown away by that. And then to sit there, you have the guy doing the radio side of this, the announcer, he was spot on. And then you had another lady on the other side who was doing the television and internet performance side of it. And the way you just got to see everything in action. We found and discovered artists that we loved their music. Some that we didn't realize were super big names, like Chris Young and Tenille Towns, phenomenal performers. And then Riders in the Sky? Awesome. We really, really love Grand Ole Opry. And we would go back, and we would definitely recommend for anybody going to Nashville.
After experiencing that, it was one of those things that anytime we're in Nashville, if we have the ability, we're going to go to a show again. So yeah, it won us over.
So next. Next on our list.
Next on our list is kind of a combo, but in the spirit of museums and wanting to check everything out, we went to the Johnny Cash Museum.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty cool to see a museum dedicated to an artist, even though when you went in, you got to see so much more than just Johnny Cash's history and legacy and everything else. You got to kind of see where he came from, what inspired him. It was a pretty good exhibit.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. By that time, I think Oliver's patient had started to wear a little thin. So the hard thing about doing museums like this with a toddler is, I mean, if they're into electronics and watching a show, you're good. There's always that kind of guilt, I don't know, for me on that, but you don't really have a lot of time to invest in actually, I don't know, taking a lot of the reading and all that. You find yourself taking a lot of pictures to go back and look at it later.
Yeah, definitely. There were a few articles or letters that they had saved that obviously you can't read. Oliver's wanting to touch everything, so I snapped a photo with my phone with the intentions of going back and reading, but actually never did.
But it was, I don't know, it's just one of those things that we feel like going to some of these areas you just don't want to miss out on. So we try to make it, like, squeeze it in, at least to experience, like, oh, we come back here one day, this is something we can do.
The other thing you don't want to do as a parent is put yourself in a position where for an entire hour you're saying, don't touch that.
Yeah.
Or get off that, or don't climb on that, or stay on this side of the road.
It's just not fun.
Yeah.
It's really not fun. It's not fun for them either. And then, like, I don't know, you're not paying attention to your kid and what if something happens type thing. You're in an area that you don't know. This is a whole other video entirely.
So Johnny Cash Museum, great.
We loved it. It's a smaller museum catered towards that. So I grew up listening to some of his music because of, like, my stepmother's mother. And then you have been a fan of him. And so that's kind of like what drew us to that. Also, he's just like one of the legends of country music and just music, period.
Blues, rock,
so it's kind of a given. But right across the street from the Johnny Cash Museum, which...
More importantly.
Yeah, not more importantly, but food is life. Goo Goo Clusters. The little original, like, shop, I don't know if it was the original shop, but they originate from Nashville, and we had seen a YouTube on them, and so we're like, oh, cool. One of the things we're trying to do is try typical foods from the areas we go to as well. So hot chicken sandwich if you're in. Can't tell you the best one in the area because
we only had a couple.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's the thing to do. Everyone has it, so it was hard to...
Didn't have a bad one, but the Goo Goo Clusters, I think, is definitely a must to go over there. It's like the original, I think, candy bar where they layered more than one thing, like chocolate and nuts and, like, nugget or whatever, like,
multiple
together.
ingredients.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. Oliver loved them, of course. David went through a few boxes. It's good, casual.
So the other side of it is, yes, we want every city we will land in, we want to taste the local cuisine, but we kind of screwed ourselves with this trip because we were from St. Louis, amazing, like, barbecue and food and everything. It's a foodie town, to Nashville, foodie town, knowing that we're going to go through Birmingham, amazing food as well, and now we're here in New Orleans, also great food. So, like, yeah, we just...
Trying to stay on track with goals and travel.
It's hard.
And do an elimination diet is a struggle.
So we won't be able to tell you where the best hot chicken sandwich is, but we can tell you where we've had some, I guess.
Yeah.
If we wanted to.
So speaking of food, one of the next places that was highly recommended by several of you, and I will attest to the fact that a cronut will change your motherfucking life, is the Five Daughters Bakery. So good.
Yeah, it's very good. Is anything just recommended, or is it always highly recommended?
I don't know. What's the difference?
That's what I'm trying to...
Listen, if y'all telling me to go somewhere and there's more than one of it, I'm like, this place highly recommended.
Highly recommended.
More than
okay,
two
more
people.
than one. Okay.
It's like, you know, and if they're commenting back and forth on each other, you guys have, like, you're literally building our itinerary for us. I don't know if you realize this, but
you're
we're
making
like,
it much easier.
Drop suggestions, like, literally go to the post, I'll look through the suggestions, and I'm like, okay, we have to go here. Okay, so Five Daughters Bakery, definitely hit that place up. We went there twice and didn't spend less than $20 there every time. They're good donuts. Cronuts, my bad.
Just trying to tell you we got a lot, not that they're super expensive.
We got a lot of donuts.
There you go.
So, next place on our list.
Where did we leave off? What were we talking about?
Let's start with that one.
Oh yeah. So the Gaylord. So the Gaylord Opryland Hotel and Resort was pretty cool because I don't think I've ever experienced a resort not like on the beach or on an island or somewhere very exotic. But the way this was set up was really cool in the fact that it was I don't think I've ever seen anything like it before. When you walk into it, it's the largest indoor city.
Yeah,
We'll go in.
it's like a little indoor terrarium of a city, and there was like one person who...
It's a human terrarium.
Who commented, and it was very short, and it was just like Gaylord Opryland, like was a suggestion. And I was like, my first thought went to Meet the Fockers, Gaylord Fokker. I was like, Gaylord, that's the only place I've heard that before. Anyways, useless information, but that's the way my brain works. So I looked into it and I was like, holy shit, this place is awesome. I was like, is this real life? Like, do we have to go stay there? Because there's a few places where we used to live that you had to be staying there in order to go do some of the activities that were there, like the water activities or whatever. But you didn't have to be. So we popped in there one day to do they had like a winter fest still going on.
Yep. And so that's the other side. We were in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was still cold. It was still in the wintertime, storms. So we were looking for things like, what are things that you can do in the middle of the winter? Because outdoor activities like hiking's not great in the winter, depending on who you are, I guess. I don't know. If you're from Alaska, you do just fine. Yeah. But when we saw this, we're like, oh, okay, you can do this no matter how the weather is. So we went and checked it out.
So we did indoor ice tubing, which none of us had ever done before.
Yeah, well, that was under a tent, the ice tubing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they had this whole little winter playland that Oliver thoroughly enjoyed. Like, I think he would have never left.
Yeah, he would have never left. But so we went there. It took us an hour to find the winter tubing because this place is huge. The gardens, there were plants everywhere. Like, and it was well manicured, well taken care of landscape. I mean, they must have like a whole squadron of like landscapers in there, like at all times.
Or just one really good one.
One really good. I mean, there was a boat. Like there was like a little boat you could ride inside. There was, gosh, I don't know. Like,
there's a toy store. There's several restaurants.
Overload. There was coffee. Coffee was a must. We ate lunch there, but like we went tubing for like an hour once we finally found it, after doing all the cardio, and then we went and had lunch there, and then we went back into tubing for another hour. Oh, and they also had ice skating. They had an ice skating show. They had a rink you could do, and then we did ice bumper cars.
Bumper boats.
Which wasn't the greatest because the ice started to smell like it was a sunny day. Anyways, but the ice tubing was a blast. Oliver did tubing by himself, like even my heart, but. It was good. Gaylord Opryland was a plus. Thanks to the person who recommended it. Definitely recommend going to.
So it's we had mentioned earlier about the Opryland, especially if you're gonna go there for a show. That's a good one to keep in mind if you want to like go have dinner or drinks before the show as well, because they're right next to each other.
Mm-hmm. All right. So another thing that we really liked about Nashville was the parks. There were so many great parks in the area. Two of the big ones that we happened to go to were the Centennial Park. One that we found that was really cool that Oliver loved, we went there twice, was the Fannie Mae D's Park. And it was just a huge playground, and they had like this brick sculpture that you could climb on and this huge dragon. But the weather started warming up while we were there, so it was nice to be able to find these parks and just pop over and get some playtime, get some fresh air with them. Yeah.
So parks, amazing restaurants. I think the other item that I'm thinking about that we didn't write down were their art murals all over the city.
All over the city.
Were really impressive. So at any point in time you were on your way to a park or a great restaurant, you'd see several murals on the way, which I think was super popular for people to go and take photos with. So that's another one that we've seen some of them here in New Orleans as well, but nothing like what we saw in Nashville. Even Charlotte has quite a few, shout out to Wolf, but it has nothing on the artwork in Nashville,
Yeah, which we stopped like one of the first weekends there and we did a picture with one, but it was just one of those things that, I don't know, we felt like we were trying to do so much.
Yes, absolutely, still feel that way.
We didn't prioritize the murals, but it's a huge thing to do. I mean, we waited in line for this mural too. And then the last thing I want to share that we did, which was just one of those things that like you hear about and you just have to go see, is the Parthenon. It's kind of majestic.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking huge. It's this giant replica of the Parthenon in Greece, basically, that they built for the World Fair. I can't remember the year.
Another one of those museums where you read the facts, but then you have a toddler, and so you don't read the facts.
Yeah, you don't retain the facts. You just know that.
You also don't read the facts.
And you probably completely wrong. It's probably not even from Greece. It's probably from some other country.
The moon.
Yeah.
But
it's not a country.
It was. It was amazing.
But it was really cool and just kind of neat to see. I mean, it's like supposed to be, I think, one of the largest indoor statue, if not in the country, in the US. Who knows? Again, fact check me. Really kind of cool to see, just kind of like ginormous. There's a museum in there too. Didn't make a whole lot of time for that. Went in there to see the giant lady. Went to the Centennial Park, Bicentennial Park that's there.
And there are a lot of fun like sculptures in that park as well. We only saw maybe 10% of the entire park.
The park is pretty big. So
massive.
But I don't know, is that it from our Nashville trip, really?
I think so. I mean, we had fun. Like we had an amazing Airbnb. So like this one we really enjoyed just relaxing at home too.
Yeah.
It really felt like, you know, homely. Is that?
I don't think that's a good.
It's not a good thing.
It felt the most like we were the most comfortable there so far in our trip.
Yes.
The location, everything about this place.
And we were snowed in for like 7 days too.
We landed. We literally left St. Louis. It was 7 degrees outside. We landed in Nashville. It was 20 degrees warmer, so 27 degrees, and it got slain with a snowstorm. So like the first week in Nashville, we're cooped up.
Everything was closed. We
Yeah.
tried going to the country museum.
Oh, that's what we did.
I was wondering if you didn't write it down.
Oh my gosh.
So the Country Music Museum.
So yeah, that was
Hall of Fame.
What? How did I forget that? I have
I
a
don't
list
know.
here. And that okay.
So that was the first thing we tried to do, but everything was closed because of the snow. So we went back a few days later.
Yeah, the Country Music
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. What? You guys should totally rely on us for information.
I was like, wow,
regarding
she must have
traveling
not.
to
It
Nashville.
didn't make the list of the top things. Wow.
No, that was awesome. It was another one of those things where we went and we're like, okay, how are we gonna do this with Oliver? Poor guy. I mean, he was fine with it, but he watched his shows on his YouTube for majority of that.
You liked Elvis's car. That was about it.
Yeah, Elvis's car was so cool. But yeah, Country Music Hall of Fame, phenomenal. Definitely a must go to while in Nashville. I can't say that there was a lot of artists there I did recognize and I did know, and you know their music growing up, and then there was a lot that I learned about while we were there too. So it was really cool to see and learn some new things from the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But it was one of those places where we bought tickets, tried to go to, but it was closed the first week we were there because of inclement weather.
What I would say about that museum that's different from some of the others that we've gone to even more recently is there's not as much written down there. So it's more to look at. So if you are one of those that are, if you're debating if you get the audio experience, probably adds so much more to it just because as you're walking through, you're hearing more commentary than what's typed up on these tiny little plaques.
And we did get that. We got one of the audio things, but we didn't end up using it because we had all of
trying to do all of them.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that audio, like you're not only getting ascribed to all the information, but you're probably hearing some of the music there too, which they did a great job incorporating music and the different feels into the exhibits as well.
And how country music progressed. Like that was one thing that was really cool to see how
instruments changed, the
influences on country music, to see how artists like work together, like songwriters like work together.
Yeah, even like the influence of different ethnicities coming to America at different times, different wars, how all of those things impacted the culture of music.
So I can't believe we almost forgot that one. Jesus. Anyways, you should totally take our advice on Nashville tourism. We love Nashville. It was really quite fascinating to be there and to be in a totally different city that was literally surrounded, the culture surrounded by country music. I mean, that was cool. A lot, like the actual Broadway though, I will say, like when we drove up, I was like, this Broadway? Like this it? Because it's like this big. You expect, like, I don't know, the movies make it feel like this big, grand, like the strip at Myrtle Beach is bigger than Broadway in my opinion.
But you were this big last time you went there.
Yeah, so again, totally reliable source for tourism.
Because we didn't do the touristy things,
yeah.
Unless you're considering, you know, having a kid and being a tourist. Like we didn't go to Broadway. Like we drove past it.
We went to the Johnny Cash Museum on Broadway.
What I reflected on was, wow, Nashville was only a few hours away from us this whole time, and we never checked it out.
Well, I don't know, it's different. I think one thing that we've noticed that has been a struggle is finding things that the balance between great to do with kids, young kids, like toddlers, and for us as well. Like, so I think that's why we always hit up the zoo, science center, stuff like that that's interactive, because a lot of the museums and tours and stuff, especially in a city like Nashville, not really cater towards small kids.
That's what we would recommend.
We recommend Nashville. We really enjoyed our time in our stay in Nashville.
If you're gonna pick a city during COVID, that's a good one to go to.
Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed hearing us bullshit about the top things to do in the places we're staying at. If you have any suggestions on places you'd recommend in Nashville, definitely drop them below, because y'all seem to be better at this than we are, because we lived off your suggestions, one. And if you have suggestions for us, some things you want to see in the future, be sure to drop them below. And thanks for watching, guys.